Morning YouTube, another Taurus High Point production coming at you. Going to discuss the sear for a Mosin Trigger. Most people do this home gunsmithing on these things, and they remove metal, they don't polish. You don't want to remove any metal from any weapon, being 300 years ago or today's weapon, because when you do that, you hit certain ramifications on that weapon that aren't good. The sear for the Mosin Trigger. You see how that's been polished? Okay, and then down here has been polished. Those are the two mating surfaces. You only want to polish them. You don't want to remove metal. You don't want to use files. You don't want to use anything heavier than 1,000 grit sandpaper for the polishing. That's all you want to do. If you do this to your Mosin and you give it the drop test or the bump test and you realize your hammer is falling, you'll need to remove metal from this area here on the sear. This little ledge, little lip that hangs out, you want to remove metal from the top of it so it can re-engage. But if you're going to do this, okay, I suggest you just purchase a new sear. Yeah, a little costly that way, but it'll save you headache in the long run, because if you take too much metal off you're done. There's no way to level that back out. Taurus High Point production. This is just around the sear of a Mosin Trigger. Again, polishing. You want to polish. You don't want to remove metal. The surface here and here where the trigger makes engagement. You want to kind of bring that up to a high luster. But be careful. You don't want to remove metal. You never want to take a file or anything heavier than 1,000 grit sandpaper to these things. I used 1,000 grit sandpaper and dremel, but that's a felt cloth on there. That's not going to remove metal. All that's going to do is polish. And everybody uses flits that I know of. That's what I had on hand, and it worked nice. And I didn't have to worry about the flits shooting a rooster tail across the room. I just applied a little bit to my end product, to my sear, waited for it to dry, and just hit it with the buffing wheel. After I took it, set it on a flat surface. You can use that with 1,000 grit sandpaper, and it doesn't take long. It takes a few seconds. Literally, I think that part in both those places, I was done in less than 4 minutes, bringing that up to a high shot in both those spots. I kept hitting it with just to kill time. Remember, you're not trying to remove metal. Nothing heavier than 1,000 grit sandpaper when you do this. Sounds like a repeat of my last video, but all I'm doing in this one is covering this sear and trying to help the next guy who's evolving. A lot of people, they polish these things, the lugs. I didn't. Like I said, the engagements that I made for polishing were just the face on the bolt here. Do a little Did the same thing there, 1000 grit sandpaper down a flat surface and kind of make it as much as a 90-degree angle as I can. And a little bit here. And I hit it with the polishing wheel a couple of times. You've already seen the sear. I chucked that up in a little jeweler's vise and ran a strap of 1000 grit sandpaper on the top of this trigger here where it meets the sear here, just in the metal engagement areas. I polished. But you do you, I'll do me. I'll be responsible, you be responsible. Mine passes the drop test. I'm just waiting for the Nick Taylor's trigger spring that goes in there, and the shim kit from millserpaccuracy.com. They've got tons of kits. No, I'm not sponsored. I'm not promoting anyone. I went with the cheapest, and those were the cheapest. M Carbo has a kit for this. M Carbo adds another firing pin spring to it. You get 4 shims instead of 1. 2 shims go on the side here, behind where the trigger pin goes through. One will go between here and the rifle, or 2 go between here and the rifle. Nick and Taylor's, it was like a third of that. You get the 1 shim for the top of the sear. Okay, when you hook your sear in, and the trigger spring that goes in there, trigger return spring, and it's like $5.25. Of course, you gotta add tax or shipping depending on where you get it. I grabbed mine off of eBay for $5, $5.25. That included the shipping, but again, you choose, therefore you are responsible. I'm not sponsored, I don't have. I'm just telling you what I'm doing on my end to smooth out my Mosin, and that I got the ideas from these other gentlemen on YouTube. In gunsmithing, again, it's wholly a self thing. If you want to do it and want to learn, great. If you don't know what you're doing and don't know how to test to make sure that what you did was okay before an accident does happen with it, don't do it. Thank you.